So you guys know I host this podcast. Dele is the producer. Now we're coming into an episode with Dyketopia, Kate and Lee. They're a comedy duo. They do a lot of cool events. It's a really fun episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed being the quote-unquote fly on the wall for this conversation. Plenty of times where I had to resist laughing out loud.
Right. Speaking of which, there was a fly in the studio, and it did not bother us during the interview, which I'm very glad about.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing. People talk about, comedy comes from sadness. And so, sometimes when you have, a serious conversation with a comedian, it can be, not bad, just it's not always what you expect.
Maybe a little more somber.
Yeah. And in this case, with both of them, we were able to talk about very serious and vulnerable things, but it was still high energy and a lot of fun. I feel like I learned a lot about their perspective as queer women in comedy, their journeys in engaging with comedy, just a lot of cool kind of gems in this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're both really excited to engage more with Dyketopia and go see a live show.
Yeah, definitely.
And so hopefully you all will have that same reaction too, and want to follow along on their journey and have some laughs along the way.
Yeah. So, you guys check it out. Now, I always try to remind you to like and subscribe, and please leave reviews. That helps us a lot. Share the show with other people. I'm proud of the interviews we do here. Dele does a lot of hard work editing them, which saves me the work of editing them. So, we would like more people to engage. So however you can support it, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, should we send them on to the show?
Yeah, go check it out. Welcome to How Art is Born, a podcast from the Museum of Contemporary Art Denver about the origins of artists and their creative and artistic practices. I'm your host, R. Allen Brooks, artist, writer, and professor. Today I'm joined by stand-up comedians, co-creators, and co-hosts of the delightfully unhinged queer comedy variety show Dyketopia, Kate McLachlan and Lee Robinson. Say hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys for being here. Cool. Okay, so to start off, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Lee Robinson. I'm a stand-up comedian here in Denver. And do you want us to talk about the show? Should we dive into the show, or should we do a little personal?
Well, the personal thing, and then we'll get more into what you're doing now and how it evolved.
The personal.
Vulnerable, remember?
I love it. Getting vuln.
Vuln.
Yeah, no, I been doing stand-up. I started in improv comedy.
Okay.
And you did too, right? No, just kidding. You took some improv classes, right?
The look of disdain.
It's so stand-up comics have this weird improv versus stand-up.
Yeah.
Don't need to get into it. We do a ton of improv in our show. That's half of our show is all improvised. So anyway, so I started in improv comedy, got into stand-up after I was actually in a stand-up group with Ed Bell, another comedian, and he was like, you have to do stand-up.
Nice.
Stop doing improv. But he was actively doing it. So probably 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, run a couple shows and obviously do Dyketopia with Kate. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right, Kate, a little of who you are.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a stand-up comedian here in Denver. And let's see, I started doing stand-up about 6 years ago in Durango, Colorado, my hometown, a teeny little place. And yeah, I'd wanted to do stand-up my whole life. It was my dream as a kid was to be on SNL.
Oh wow.
That was I had an SNL themed birthday when I was 10 and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cute. It was really cute.
That's so cute.
Wait, okay, I want to know what makes an SNL themed birthday
I said so.
Was it hats and or were there comedy performances? Did you guys do sketches?
No, oh man. You would have been an amazing party planner. No, none of these things. I think we just had it on in the background, best of videos and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a treat.
Okay, so you're from Durango. Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally?
I am originally from the great state of Missouri.
Yeah. Nice.
Something no one's ever said before. Technically, I was born in Kentucky, and then my parents hopped over to Southeast Missouri.
Tell them your town's claim to fame.
Oh, which one? The Cape Girardeau. There's a lot of claims.
Many claims to fame.
It's like is it notoriety?
Sure.
I associate notoriety with like Paris Hilton, like fun, but like negative. Like we don't have any. So I'm from a town called Cape Girardeau.
Okay.
Where the river turns 1,000 tails because we're right on the Mississippi River.
All right.
But yeah, Rush Limbaugh's from there.
Notoriety.
Notoriety. That kind of really gives you the whole vibe of, yeah. But I've been in Denver coming up on 8 years, which is wild.
Nice.
So Denver is kind of hometown now.
Okay. So I'm interested in, so you had that SNL party early on. Like what for you guys was the first sort of connection to comedy? Like, do you remember a time when it was like you saw it and you were like, this is something I want to do, or that it spoke to you really strongly?
I have a family that really likes comedy.
Okay.
My mom was an English teacher and is very witty.
Yeah.
And loves puns.
Nice.
And really enjoyed like Tom Swifties and those kinds of things. And then my dad is funny in the sense that he would just say whatever was on his mind. Mm-hmm. And some of the times it was insane. And so but I was really influenced by both of them. And then we also like, you know, my dad showed me The Jerk when I was like really young, and he loved Steve Martin, and we loved Saturday Night Live. And I think I've always just been very intrigued by like comedy and show business.
Okay.
And
so that was kind of like ever present in your life.
Ever present.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Lee, you mentioned that before we started recording, you mentioned that you had a lot of your childhood was divorced from pop culture.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you connect with comedy?
I'm just listening to what you just said, Kate. I'm like, God, that sounds so fun. That sounds so
The SNL party? Or
cool. SNL party. No, just like having a kind of familial culture of fun,
right.
Not really the vibes in my hometown. So yeah, I wouldn't say I had, honestly, and this is like really deeply embarrassing, but like probably my first like concept of comedy was like The Lonely Island, like Andy Samberg's.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like pretty recent. You
it's
know what I mean? Like,
here.
I love
thank
The
you.
Lonely Island.
No, I love them. Like, I love the album they put out. I love their stuff. I did love SNL, but I wasn't like an avid fan or anything. But I never really I was always just like funny. Like I was voted class clown.
Nice.
As was my as was my older brother and my younger brother. I have three of us, and my mom was so pissed. She was like
family championship.
Yeah, and it was just like what my mom. Right. Yeah. Like we did it, but my mom didn't want that. She was like, "What about most likely to succeed?" And I'm like, "Well, this is kind of what happens."
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't say I really had like any like early inspiration or anything like that.
Okay, so you were sort of like the cut up in school, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so this is you sort of generating your own comedy before you're connecting to the like pop culture comedy.
Right.
So it was just sort of innate. Would you say that was?
Yeah, I guess it would have had to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I've always been goofy and kind of like, always dressing up for like class days and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like goofy people, right?
Yeah.
And I do wish I had like some more connection to pop culture, because then I think it's easier to find your voice that way. If you're like, oh, well, I'm kind of like this and a little bit like that. But we're still here.
Yeah, you're here. So it's really interesting to me to hear, like, I guess as a corollary to that first question, the second part of it would be, what is the point that you decided that you wanted to make comedy, that you wanted to like pursue it as an art for yourselves?
I always was writing little plays, and in 5th grade for the talent show, I wrote a musical about Elian Gonzalez. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
What?
We're a news family. Yeah.
I'm interested to hear how this led to comedy.
So it was a lot. It was like other Broadway songs changed to the lyrics to be about Elian Gonzalez.
Wow. Okay.
I worked really hard on it. I went to Catholic school and I did it at auditions, and they were like, absolutely not. And I was like, okay. okay. But
Wow.
so I think, and then when I got past high school and into adulthood, I always had the desire for it, but had extreme anxiety about like, and I think what a lot of it was finding my voice. Like, I knew I wanted to be funny. I knew I wanted to entertain.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it. And so I just ended up being like the jokester in any friend group or workplace for a
Right.
long time.
That's interesting. Okay, so you had that desire, but you didn't have a venue like to express it.
An outlet, yeah.
Yeah, or even I think I stopped myself from taking it. Like, it was such a vulnerable thing. You have to
Right.
really put yourself out there
Right.
when you perform on stage compared to just like joking around with friends. It was a level that I wasn't confident enough for.
I said this in season 1 when I interviewed Janae Burris, that like I think comedy is the only kind of entertainment where an audience is daring you to make them react in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So like if I'm doing music or something, the audience is into it or they're not, you know. But with comedy, it's like, make me laugh.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a different level of challenge and opposition that you as comedians have to face.
Yeah, some people are more in like, I don't know, especially some venues in town, like at Comedy Works, people go there expecting to have a good time.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I feel like it's easier to get them to laugh because they like are expecting that. But there are audiences out there where you have to prove something to them.
Right.
And it's very annoying.
Are you here to have fun? Why are you
Right.
here?
Yeah, it's like you paid to be here. And
Right.
now you're like making me sing for my supper. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, so Lee, how about for you? Was there a clear time where you were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create comedy for people?
I mean, let's see. I did my first like improv jam when I was 25. I was with
Okay.
my best friend in Austin. He was like, let's do this thing, knowing that like I did deeply want to do that, but I
Yeah.
was so scared. And so we did it. And it was just like, it was like at a big time for like self-growth. And like I was reading like a million self-help books. And I was like, I knew I had an out, like I knew I had a craving for
Right.
more, like a yearning for more. Because I wasn't really happy like doing my day job, and I was like, I have stuff to say, I have things, you know, I have this ability, but I was like super scared, right? It's just scary. It is scary to put yourself out there.
Right.
And so I did that jam, and then I came home and I signed up for an improv class. And then when the improv class, it was like the cheapest one available in town.
Right.
It was at some guy's apartment. The guy who owns Chaos Bloom now.
Okay.
so improv.
It's so improv, and I show up, and he's not there. So we're all standing outside of his apartment, being like, "Did we just get scammed out of $100? Like,
Right.
what the heck?" Anyways, that was the great start to my career in improv, and then I was in like 3 groups, had a lot of fun. Like, I really loved it. But again, it was like that like nagging thing of like, I have more to say. And it's improv is so fun. Like, I would say like 5% of the time when you're on stage, it's magical. The other 95% doing or watching is garbage.
Nah, yeah.
And I was just like, we've all been there. We've all supported a friend. I've been that
It's true.
person people have come to support. And it's just so bad. And I was just like, Ed gave me that push and was
Yeah.
like, you really have to do stand up. Like, there's not a career ladder in improv in Denver, like in other places perhaps, but you're also doing sketch or you're doing character monologue, like stand up, and that just doesn't really exist here. And so he pushed me into that. And it's just super addictive. Like, once you kind of start, it's like, oh my
Well,
God.
okay, so this is interesting. So for you both, at that point where you're deciding, I'm going to do it, is it like you write like a type 5 or something and hit open mics? Like, what's the next step?
So for most people, yes. That I've never been good at like internet research, and I have had a long history of clicking on the first link to something and then like
That's enough. Yeah.
yeah, and then just be like, mission accomplished.
Right.
And so I was like 24, I think, and I finally like couldn't take it anymore. I was like, I'm gonna do stand up.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you experience too. You joke your whole life, and people are like, "You're so funny. You should do stand up."
Right.
So I'm psyching myself up. I'm gonna do it. I just type in open mic Denver, and the first thing I click on is a showcase at the Improv.
Oh.
What?
Which was like Steve and AJ was on the showcase, and like other comics that I'd recognize, but I don't remember their name. Like, it was like a big deal. I don't know why they had a sign-up format.
Right.
What?
But I emailed them, and they were like, "Congratulations, you made the showcase."
Okay. Now this is interesting. So I want to like. So did you have to send samples of you just
No.
you just applied?
I wish I remembered more about the It was about 10 years ago.
Dear
so.
sirs or madam, that was very funny or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I had to have like references or anything, because normally a showcase you'd send a tape or something, and maybe they just needed butts and seats. I'm really not sure.
It's interesting.
But I really just did not understand anything about it, and I invited everyone I've ever met. My ex-boyfriend brought his parents.
Wow.
Like, all my coworkers, my family drove in from Durango.
Wow.
6-hour drive. Everybody was like, "This is Kate's break." It was so
Okay.
And I think that I had a delusional energy that was really leading the charge on it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, this is not on them. This is on me.
Did you think it was your break?
I don't know what I thought.
Ah.
Because I didn't know anything about how it went.
Yeah.
So I was
Wow.
like, yeah, this, stranger things have happened.
How
like,
much time between when you got accepted and when it was happening?
Like a week.
So you had a week to prepare.
Yeah, so I had, before you start, I had jokes, and like, I'm pretty story based, so
Okay.
I had a lot of stories.
Yeah.
And I remember practicing, and I was like, I'm gonna practice 6 minutes of material, so in case I talk quickly, it'll be a tight 5. And I got there, and I instantly was like, what the fuck have I done? And like, everything got so real, and I got there like 2.5 hours early, which now I'd say I'm a pretty solid 15 before I'm asked to
Right.
be there. That's like
Yeah.
what I do. So I got there 2 hours. I could have seen a movie across the street in the time that I got there. And I spoke so quickly that I was up there for 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I just put the mic back and ran off the stage. And the host literally was like, "That was it?" And I didn't do stand up for like 4 years after that.
So
I
that
don't
kinda-
even count that as my like start. Obviously it was an epic start.
Did
but
it feel bad to you? Like,
it felt so bad.
Yeah.
Like I was talking so quickly, the lights were so bright.
how was the audience?
The only thing I remember is seeing my one friend laugh, and I instantly was like, she's just doing this to make me feel better. Like, I don't, we'll never know for sure if she was
Right.
actually laughing or not because of my mind.
The thing that you have to understand is that usually everyone gets their first time
Right.
at an open mic in a basement
Right.
where 10 people are not paying attention.
Yeah, like,
The
Like,
Denver
right.
Improv is
like
I'm
the Squire or something, right? Like,
I'm
yeah.
shook. Like, huge deal. Like, that is. And
That's
then you
crazy.
invite. I think that's really wholesome. I think that's so cute. Like, definitely delusional.
Right.
Delulu.
Delusional.
Like, I just can't believe that was your first. I'm surprised you ever got back up and did stand-up
That's
comedy.
pretty epic.
Well, I didn't. And then I went to a few other open mics, like a few, but no one really talked to me, which is now I completely understand because there are new open mic people every day.
Right.
Unless you're like the mayor of photographic memory, you're not going to possibly like get everyone down. And I didn't really do it again until I went to Durango because it was like new town, clean slate.
Okay, so now you're like 28?
Yeah, I'm 28.
And so you do it in Durango.
I do it in Durango. Oh my God, that's such good math. I just turned 28. You're so cool. But
Mathing.
gay people are really bad at math. So
I'll let that be your quote, not mine.
Yeah, you should name the episode that, and then with your picture. Yeah.
Right.
That should be your merch if you don't have any.
Okay, so was it just a regular, like, did you get encouraged to do it? Was it just you just
Yeah,
decided
I mean,
to try
I was
it again?
still cracking a bunch of jokes,
Yeah.
and like, you know, everyone I had ever met was at that first show, so they were asking follow-up questions, like, "Are you doing this again? Like,
It's
what's
been 4
going
years.
on?" Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been 4 years. Like, you seem still very interested in it,
Right.
and my anxiety was just off the charts. I could not. Nothing about it brought me joy at all. And open mics, you wait there for like 3 hours sometimes to go up there for 3 minutes.
Right.
Audiences aren't listening.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but Durango had a really different scene because it's such a small town that because there just aren't a lot of things to do, shows or mics are like an actual event that people come to. So there were audience members.
Yeah.
And there were only like 10 other comics in town. So they noticed that someone new was there because, like, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was just a much more wholesome scene. And I couldn't do comedy today if I hadn't gone home. I would have just
Wow.
Yeah.
not
really
done,
interesting.
because it was and then for years, no one was invited to my shows.
Yeah.
Like,
Because you felt like you had to.
yeah, well, I was
find
like,
it.
I'm not doing that again. I've been once bitten, twice shy.
Right.
So, yeah, about 2 years ago, people were allowed to, like, come see me. And now it's, like, it's sweet when friends come.
That's really cool.
It's to the point where friends, like, don't care as much with every show I'm in, which I think is okay.
Yeah.
It's happening regularly enough that they're like, we'll get you next time.
Okay, so it's cool to hear the journey. All right, so then
Yeah.
like, what was the first significant one like for you?
Well, what's funny is the first open mic I went to, Janae Burris hosted that
Oh, nice.
at the Black Buzzard in the basement of Oscar Blues, and it was the same thing. It was just like, no one wants to be friends with me. It's so, like, it's a really weird, isolating experience starting out. I remember Sarah Benson. I don't know if you ever knew her. She lives in, like, Vermont now. But I saw her, and she was so sweet, and I just walked up to her. And I think this wasn't even at the first mic, but one of the first mics, I saw her coming around regularly, and I was like, "Hi, do you want to be my friend?"
You're so brave, dude.
Well, I was just like, it was just like it's a miserable experience.
Yeah.
And, like, especially when no one knows you, like, there's so many people, so it's a total grind. And, like, that was like 2019, maybe. I started at, like, the very end of 2018 into 2019, and then I just, like, hit it. Like, I worked in Boulder, and so, like, there would be nights where I would, like, do a mic in Boulder, go up to Longmont, and then drive down to Denver and do 3 in a night. And now I could never imagine doing that. Like,
Robin Williams used to.
I mean, if I could get 3 shows in a night, absolutely.
Yeah, right, but open mics.
I got 3 paid spots.
3 paid spot. Oh, honey. But yeah, things have just changed after the pandemic, I think. Like, there's so many less mics.
Oh.
And, like, just things kind of have shifted in the scene.
That
Like,
makes sense, yeah.
different comics left or quit. A lot of new comics come into the scene. Kate came here. That was amazing. So yeah, I mean, I whenever I did that first mic with Janae, I mean, I was just like, this is horrible. I didn't tell anyone.
Well, okay, so what was horrible? Like, was it the same kind of thing? Okay, you wrote your material for it.
Yeah.
Was it 5 minutes for you?
It was like 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had been writing a lot.
And so you get up and, like, what is it?
You just
What,
bomb.
like, yeah.
You just bomb. You know, right? Like, you were talking about music.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are really, you can kind of see people visually, like, vibing to your music, or maybe they're kind of not as engaged, right? When you don't hear people laughing, you know it's your fault. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not always, because again, at open mics, it's attended a lot of the times in Denver by other comedians who are
I was going to ask
going
that.
up.
Like, are other comedians supportive, or are they, like, do they laugh at each other's jokes?
It depends.
Yeah, I need to be better at this in the sense that when it's my friends on stage, I pay attention and laugh.
Yeah.
Or if it's someone I've seen before that I, like, know they're gonna be funny, There are a few mics in town where it's like pretty standard practice for like the one at the Skylark. Everybody listens to each other, and it's really nice. Like but other places like the Irish Rover, I'm not inside hearing other people like.
Yeah, it's just like each mic has its own culture, and you kind of know.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's a mic at Blush and Blue, and like I always do well there, but because there's at least one table of lesbians there, and then the comics are polite. Like there's a lot of politeness, but like when I started, that was my memory. I mean, I was also so bad at comedy, so like I wouldn't have wanted to laugh at my shit either. No one's good.
So Nate Lund is.
Yes.
So I went to a comedy open mic to watch maybe like 7 years ago, and he was hosting it. I think it was like Three Kings or one of those places.
Oh yeah, on Broadway. That's no longer open, right?
Yeah, it's something else now. But he did
HQ.
So he did a thing. He was hosting. He did a thing in between. He was like, "Here's my impression of a first time comedian," and I can't do justice to what he did, but basically it was all like the most sort of like vulgar, offensive jokes. And then he was like, "Why is anybody laughing?" Like, and I've noticed that when like a first time or like inexperienced comedian is bombing, they become more offensive to try to like provoke some kind of reaction.
Yes.
So I want to know like what it was like. Like, did you guys fall into that at all, or like?
No.
You know, just what it was like in that environment, you know?
For me, I struggle with that a lot with other people. Like that was actually why it was really hard for me, because of just the constant, like now, like, you know, we don't go to mics as often because we'll be booked on shows the same nights. But like sometimes today I'll go to mics. I'm like, Jesus, like you hear slurs and stuff, and it's
insane.
It's awful.
The only time I've ever heckled was when somebody
and that's
was doing
appropriate.
it.
Great time to heckle.
They likely deserved it.
They definitely deserved it. And that was just like, I remember like, not even just people on stage saying unhinged stuff, but like people coming up to you. Like I remember one time in one of my first mics, a guy came up to me and tried to start, this was 2019, tried to start debating me on like trans athletes getting to play sports.
Oh, good.
And I was just like, leave me alone. So it's like, it's just kind of like a lot of incel men who you'll never see again and will never have a career. You have to like sit through that. It's just like sludge. It's just detritus of the comedy scene. And like those
so
people.
Well said, but yeah,
you know,
really eloquent.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like when you're in that, I don't know if this happened in Durango because it was like such a small scene. Like it was just such a like, I felt like I had to kind of cocoon myself away and like, because I was just like, these people are awful. I don't know anyone, but like I have this belief that like I am funny and my voice does deserve to be on stage.
Right.
And that's like part of the seeds of like wanting to start a show like Dyketopia, to create a space for queer comedians and other people who like get shit on constantly by these like straight white men who think they're the next Joe Rogan. It's like, honey, sit down. You're not. Sorry.
Well,
I have a lot of feelings.
This is actually a perfect segue because I noticed earlier that you said, I feel like I have something to say. So a lot of times when I'm talking to creative people on this podcast, it's the question of, do you create art to heal yourself or to say something to the world, or both? And so I'm interested in what place comedy occupies for both of you. Is it to bring something to the world that isn't there, or to help people, or is it just to heal yourself?
I think in sharing my point of view, I have healed a lot of myself.
Yeah.
I think that my first objective is to like write funny things, especially because a lot of my jokes are personal stories, that having like reclamation over the narrative of like embarrassing or weird things that have happened to me, it's been a very healing thing. So I'd say both.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
I love your stories. They're so good.
Oh, it's very nice. I've made a lot of mistakes.
Lots to draw from.
Lots to draw from. That's good. A good repository. let's see. So it's heal yourself
or heal the world, basically.
Well, I've got a lot of jokes on fisting that I don't think really fit into that category.
Hey, fisting has its place.
Wow, you had to act it out. Nice. I'm sorry for people. Sorry for people who are just
The folks at home,
right, who are just listening.
Yeah.
You might want to go to the YouTube for that one.
Yeah, go to the YouTube to see Kate's inaccurate portrayal of fisting. It's not okay. Here's my thing.
It didn't seem very
fisting has
arousing
a branding problem because you don't punch. But we don't need to go in deeper because
there was a He-Man character named Fisto.
Fisting.
Really?
Oh wait, what?
Yeah.
What does Fisto look like?
Yeah, he had a giant metallic fist, and it was like Masters of the Universe.
Queer
and
icon.
His name was Fisto.
We gotta look him up.
Yeah. So you're welcome for that.
Fisto sounds awesome.
Okay, back to me.
Yes, healing. Right.
Back to me healing the world with comedy, like Bo Burnham said. Yeah, it's so funny because like Bo Burnham does have that song about healing the world with comedy, and I don't know, like I don't like think that I think Dyketopia can be a really healing place for queer people to come and like laugh, because a lot of people have never been to a comedy show, or they have been and they've had bad experiences where, you know, you're the butt of the joke, right? So I think, you know, not to like blow smoke up our own, you know, thing, but like I think that it can be, and like I love doing the show with you, and I love that we get to have a space where queer people can have fun and laugh and be safe. But I do think it's healed me personally. Oh my God, like so much. Like
that's really dope.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful thing. Like the community is
Oh.
healing. You find your voice through comedy.
Right.
You can like be comfortable and become like someone you never thought you could be, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I say this as an outsider, like somebody who's never done stand-up comedy, but it seems like so much of comedy is about identifying an essential truth, like shining light on the truth that people haven't gotten to. I often say this about art in general, that art takes these intangible things and makes them tangible so that we have a way to confront or find our way through them. So even if you had like jokes about fisting, for example, like if that's something that people feel shame about or haven't been able to discuss, the fact that you are able to bring it into like regular life, real life, becomes healing, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to know, is that you're like, when you guys are writing stuff, are you trying to express a truth to yourselves? Or are you more just thinking about what's funny?
We are absolutely insane. We get
That wasn't
together
one of the
and
choices.
we just, we're not, there's no like, I mean, I wouldn't say like we sit down and we're like, how are we going to have an impact on people? We just, what do we think is funny? What's the most ridiculous thing we could think of? Like in our last show, we partnered with Cheer Colorado, a queer cheerleading group. And they wrote us a custom chant, and they came out, did a full routine. We came out, did like thigh stands with them.
Wow.
And we were doing a chant about strap-ons. They had the they had the STR. It just, every time it's really just like, what do we think is funny?
Right.
And our audience will go along with it a lot of the times.
Huh.
I think to me, a lot of what makes comedy moving is when people are their most like not relatable but themselves. Like that's always comedy writing advice, is to make it really specifically about you. And that ends up, that's what makes me laugh the most, like
Being real.
like do you know John Mulaney? Did you see his most recent special about, did you see Baby J? I'm just asking everyone in the room, for those of you that are. Did you? But
people at home, have you seen it?
Yeah, tell me. And it's all about his like stint in rehab and divorce.
Wow.
And it's so funny. I'm not making it sound funny, but it was one of the best.
Because it's honest and true, right?
It was so honest. It was so true. That's what everyone loved about Richard Pryor.
Oh, like Tig Notaro.
Oh yeah.
That's what everyone loves about Tig Notaro.
Yeah, did that routine like right after finding out that like a cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, cancer, but then also she went through a breakup.
Yeah.
And then she also had some other issue
like all
going.
these disasters and went on stage. Yeah. I think that's but I think the empowering thing for people who are watching or listening is that, oh, I've never had words for this. Oh, somebody else feels this, somebody else has experienced.
Yeah, and so it's not, and by speaking about yourself and your experiences, that I think is what is a much more broad access to people than trying to like please everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because like, I lost it. Sorry.
It's all right. Well,
I was just gonna agree.
well, then I want
Yeah.
to say, so you did stand-up comedy on your own for like a couple years each. Would that be right? And then combined your powers to create Dyketopia.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would love to
I
hear
was like,
how that
hey,
came
you
together.
seem like a huge fucking idiot. So am I.
So how,
I prefer the term clown.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I forgot your extensive clown work.
how did you guys meet?
So we met through a friend, Kate Strobel. She had us, we all grabbed beers when I first moved to Denver.
Okay.
Because Kate was a friend of mine. And then I told her I was moving to Denver and she wanted to introduce me to other comedians.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful. And then we didn't really hang out. Or we weren't on any shows together.
Then I booked you on a show.
And then you booked me on a show.
Nice.
And I had bought this like gag gift of Barbie tarot cards, which
Okay.
I don't know anything about tarot really,
Yes.
but I brought them because I knew there'd be other gay people on the show. And that's a big part of the queer community is like tarot and astrology.
I was like
and-
tarot or Barbie. I didn't know, but okay.
Barbie.
Honestly,
Oh, both.
both actually.
Crossover. Nice.
Yeah, so I was a little ahead of the time, you could say. This was in 2021. And then we were just like joking at the show about if maybe doing a show of doing like fake tarot readings.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what you
grew
know
from there.
more. Not you don't know more, but you have more to add.
You were there. I wasn't.
Associated. What are you doing?
No, I think we were joking about it, but then you followed up with me on Facebook Messenger.
Nice.
Facebook
The
Messenger.
follow-up.
Yeah, and you said something like we should really do that bad astrology readings or whatever. And then we just started talking, and then like I think we just started like kicking it more like at shows and stuff, and like at Rita's Law, all those Wednesdays. It was this venue that's closed down.
Okay.
Rest in peace. But there was a week. Kate Strobel, who is now my roommate, ran a weekly show there, so
Okay.
people would just kind of come hang out and stuff.
Nice.
It was like the weekly hangout thing, and we just kept talking, and it kind of evolved. And then I quit my job. I got a different job, and I had 3 weeks off in July, and I was like, "Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
just throw it in someone's backyard. Let's go." And yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
I love this. Okay.
From the jump, it was really collaborative because it instantly became not a normal comedy show.
Yeah.
Because, like, for a normal comedy show, is like a host, comics, a headliner,
Okay.
but that wasn't our idea to begin with. So it's kind of been able to go wherever we want it to go, and that's been at times exhausting, but at other times like really cool. We've gotten to do the dumbest things, like we have a game called Finger It Out where we show close-up of celebrities' hands,
Okay.
and someone in the audience has to guess
What's a lesbian?
what queer celebrities' hands it are. We have this game that we've done twice now called Battle of the Signs, where we just get one person from each astrological sign to like compete against each other and like egg tosses and shit. Like we get to really just paint with all the colors, and
Wow.
it's been very nice.
Sounds epic. I just want to acknowledge the word lesbian. It's my first time hearing it. And I think it's really good.
Isn't it a good one?
Yeah, it's a
It's a
great.
lesbian.
You'll have to come to our
Nice.
show.
You'll
Yeah.
have to come.
Definitely down.
Yeah, come hang out.
Right on.
It's my parents came to the last
Yeah?
one, and
How was that?
that was their first time seeing me do comedy ever.
How was that for you?
I was anxious.
Yeah.
I was so anxious. Oh my god. But they loved it.
Huh.
They're like Dyketopia #1 fans now. My
That's
mom's
so
like,
cool.
we need to talk about merchandise
Oh,
and
wow.
social media.
Nice.
You know,
I love that.
it's so funny. She's so sweet. But yeah, we've had some highbrow stuff like K McLachlan Book Club.
Oh yeah.
There's a lesbian writer named Kate McLachlan that always comes up when you Google Kate McLachlan.
Right.
And so we've done it several times where we've ordered. Her books include things like 10 Little Lesbians, Rip Van Dyke. What was the Christmas tree one? Christmas Crush. Like, it's so bad. They're self-published.
Wow.
We love her. She's an icon to us. We should reach out to her to get her on the show, actually. We should. Oh my God. But we'll make people come up and do dramatic stage readings with us and stuff. We've rewritten the lyrics to like 12 Days of Christmas at a holiday show and made everyone stand up and sing. Like, we just get to have the dumbest, gayest time, and it's like really cool. It's so cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really cool. So you guys come together and you create this event, series of events. I guess given what you've shared about like your journeys and all that stuff, when you do an event, what represents success? Like, what makes you feel like, hey, we did something cool. Like, I want to do another one.
I think telling each other we're geniuses.
Yeah.
It's something we often text each other and tell each other constantly. I mean, we're the luckiest comics in Denver, I think, in the sense that we have a very loving, appreciative audience.
Yeah.
And the joy is pretty palpable to have like a queer space.
Right.
And to see, you can just tell that a lot of the people in there are really like letting loose because they're in the space.
Wow.
And we're really lucky that we just have heard really special things from our audience. And that to me feels like massive success. Yeah.
Like, nothing is more motivating than that. Like, having an audience that just says, we see you and we're here for whatever deranged stuff you're going to do next. Like, it's just like, I mean, I literally have chills, which is, you know.
I know, I'm like getting serious.
It's just like, it's so cool. Like, no, not many people are lucky to have an audience like this that is just so like gung-ho. And like, another thing that helps me feel like a success is when I feel like we've connected on stage really well and we're like in sync. Like, we leave after a game or something, we're like, that was awesome, we crushed that was so like we're just like, that was amazing, we're killing it, you know, like in the moment of the show. And then like the planning, there's just so much planning because every show we do is custom pretty much. In our Denver shows, everything is new each time.
Wow. How often do you do it?
Well, last year we did one a month and it broke us.
That's a lot.
We had to take like 3 months off.
Yeah. We also threw a festival.
And
wow.
That was, what the fuck was that, man?
We've learned a lot.
We've learned so much.
What was the festival called?
Camp Dyketopia.
Nice.
And it was on a really lovely queer-owned farm in Lakewood.
Okay.
Littleton.
On the Littleton-Lakewood border.
Exactly. Everyone knows the border.
I just know that Strobes grew up like really close to it, so I know it was on the.
Good old Strobes.
This is for another podcast.
This isn't even that geography.
This is for another podcast, I guess. And we had live music and like art fair and porta potties. And I'm naming
That's how you know. That makes it a real festival.
I'm naming all these things outside our wheelhouse that I personally was not prepared for whatsoever.
Yeah, I know way too much about how much it costs to get porta potties now, and like I think we collectively decided that like in 2023 and beyond, like let's focus on comedy and like having fun together, and it was just the biggest event either of us have ever done in our whole lives. It was 700 people, 2 days. We flew in a comic from LA. It was just a lot of new at once, and I think we were like, let's focus on being funny and like having fun together.
It's very cool that that both of you moved forward, like doing your own stand-up, and then brought your stuff together, but then like created a festival. Like even though it was a lot, you know, so many people are constantly stuck in waiting for opportunities. Yeah. You know, like waiting for people to put them on the show, that kind of thing.
Have that problem last year.
There was almost too many opportunities, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And to say that, it sounds like I don't know. I'm anxious that it comes off as ungrateful or something.
Which we're not.
For us to say that it was like, oh, so many offers, and we just took them all, and we hated it.
Your gratitude is acknowledged.
Okay.
It's
Well,
recorded.
on that note, then, no, I'm just kidding.
Right.
yeah, I have all these problems, but yeah, it felt really good this year to learn to say yes to things that we both were 100% like, fuck yeah.
So it's not monthly now. How often is it?
Every other month.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes a
It
difference.
does cut it in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And I think it's still good enough because like we actually traveled the show for the first time, which I think is like, again, coming back to like focusing on the comedy versus like doing big events and stuff. Like we got to travel the show for the first time.
Nice.
We went to Portland and Seattle, and it was so fun.
Congrats. That's
So
cool.
thanks. It was super cool. And we're going to go to Durango, Kate's hometown, next month, almost this month, July. And I think it's just been like, like pulling back and being like, okay, we have a lot of good opportunities in front of us because we have that audience that is so grateful and excited to engage with what we do.
Yeah.
But pulling it back to like, what are our goals in comedy and together?
Right.
And I'm excited for we brought our podcast back. We're at like a real studio now. And we have like more travel like in the future and stuff and bigger shows where we're bringing more people in. So I don't know. I think we're growing in the right ways and reducing a lot of the stress. Like a whole show every month new. So it's like, what was wrong with us?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe you guys can relate because you're also in the arts that sometimes it feels like if you don't take every opportunity, you're going to miss out.
Right.
And I talk about this with my therapist constantly, that like opportunities are buses, not like the last chopper out of Vietnam. Like it's not.
Well said.
Yeah.
My therapist thought it was funny.
And I'm sure she.
Yeah.
Does she know you're a comedian?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, so now instead of just getting a
Oh.
laugh out, they're like, why did you make that joke? And I'm like, oh.
You're supposed to be my audience.
Yeah, like this is, hey, I'm paying to be here. You know that?
material.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's been really exciting to figure out like what opportunities we want and that we don't have to make a million opportunities and we don't have to be in every event space. Like we can say yes to stuff that really excites us.
That's definitely like a phase of an entertainment career, right? It's like it begins with like hoping somebody will have you on something.
Oh my God.
But then you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, now I have to say no to some of this stuff so I can focus on the results that I want.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's just we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, which is wild, and it's
That's not that long.
it hasn't been that long, but it feels so long because we've learned so much like together. Like we became friends right as the show started,
Right.
and then it was just like a lot of learning and growing with each other, and like kind of what is that called, like norming and storming or something, where you.
Never heard that.
Sorry, my brain has been ruined by the business world, but that's
I need you
I like that expression.
to stop talking and tell everyone what norming and storming is.
it's like when you have a new team and everyone's trying to get used to like who does what and how things go and like what the vibe is going to be or whatever. Like it's a really boring corporate term. Like basically the thing is like we came together, we learned, we had a really unbelievable amount of growth. Like we got put in a museum after we had like 6 shows.
Nice.
Like
Where?
the Denver History Museum put us in their queer exhibit, which I think was just like, hello, imposter syndrome. Like, right? And like that was really good and beautiful and amazing to be honored in that way. And then it was just like, well, we got to put the foot on the gas now. And like looking back at last year, I was like, okay, we learned that was not we did the gas, and that was, a learning lesson. And now we know where we're at this year and what we actually want to do. And it's just like so
Very
much
cool.
more
Okay,
connected,
so
I'd say.
you guys said that the show is part improv, part sort of scripted comedy. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Script a couple things.
Okay, so
Scripted concepts.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you just kind of riff off of it. Is that?
Yeah, because we'll do we'll open up the show with we'll tell stories, or we'll start with we'll do a bit together on stage. We're probably on stage for 20 minutes together.
Yeah.
And then we bring on drag performers and stand-up
Nice.
comics, and then we play games with the audience in between.
Okay.
So we have an idea, the figure it out or whatever, and we
Yeah.
bring people on, and that's when we kind of riff with each other and the audience member on stage. And
It's like a prairie
It's-
home companion. You guys don't know what that is, do you?
Nope, I do.
Okay. It's absolutely nothing like that. I just thought
This
it'd be
is
funny.
a big okay. Have you ever tried to explain to a grown adult what Lake Wobegon is? Because it's hard and it's embarrassing for me, to be honest. I've tried to explain Lake Wobegon
Yeah.
to you and my boyfriend, and it's just like
That's the Prairie Home Companion. It's sort of a variety show, sort of.
Yeah.
But it's very different. And that's part of why I said it, because I thought it was very different.
I thought it was funny. That
thank
was a
you.
good joke.
All right.
Yeah, dude.
I'll laugh.
You'll be like, one day I'll listen to it, and then I'll be like, what he said was funny 5 years ago.
No.
So when you guys are creating the show, we talked, I always ask everybody about fear. So in your creation, what kind of fears do you experience, and how do you move through them in order to keep going?
My fears, it's in a way I'm lucky because they're not creative fears. Because no, I mean, we have fun. Our show is really fun.
Yeah.
My fear comes, and it's nothing you don't know. It's from my place in Dyketopia. And if I'm getting enough done and contributing enough, that's a lot of my fear. But it's also a huge blessing that I'm not concerned about what our product will be.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're feeling that fear, how do you move through it?
I don't know if I do move through it. I think it's kind of always there with me. Your turn. What?
I'll say it's an interesting
Your
thing.
hands are just gripping the chair.
Because I talked to some, everybody I talked to, we had this discussion, and
Yeah.
so many creative people talk about fear is just part of the process. It's there, but as long as you don't let it stop you, and you don't believe everything it tells you,
Right.
then at the end you have something that you created. So it's just always interesting to hear. So that was interesting. Do you have an answer for that, Lee?
I don't know. I think I do. I agree with what you said about the creativity. I feel I trust our creative process together, and I know we will come up with something amazing.
Yeah.
And fun, and that doesn't really stress me out. I think it is just it's the other side of your coin. It's just there's just a lot of logistics with running the show, and
Right on.
I was traumatized at an ad agency at an early age, so I'm pretty able
Right.
to send emails and stuff. But we're coming along. We're doing great.
We've changed so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
In the past year, we've grown so much as a team.
Yeah.
And I think we both know how to support each other better.
Yeah.
On
it makes a
stage
huge
and in
difference.
business.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we-
it's actually changed. I think our onstage chemistry is better,
Way better.
than ever too, because we're communicating about everything.
That's cool.
And it's been really exciting.
I love that.
We set up an LLC last year, and that was
Broke my fucking brain.
was a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
so we set up an LLC, and then it was just taxes. I was just crying about taxes and crying about a lot of stuff, which is just at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel we've also kind of handled a lot of the unfun parts of a very fun thing.
Yeah.
And then we get to be connected as friends and people and creators and have the time to say, okay, yeah, we are going to bring on a cheerleading squad. We are going to bring out this friend from New York or whatever. And I think getting past a lot of those bumps of setting up a lot of that stuff and learning how to work and support each other better, has opened up the creativity even more, which is really cool.
Yeah, because so often the business of art drains all the energy
Oof.
so that you can't do the art. But it sounds like you guys are finding a pretty good balance with that.
We're working. We're working on it.
Is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you gonna say something else?
We both have pretty debilitating ADHD. Lee functions better in a corporate world, but it doesn't sound like by choice. So unfortunately, you know how to do stuff. Yeah. I know, but it's like, and then I've got a huge like level of anxiety around not being good at more like traditional corporate stuff, and then that makes me like worse at just contributing at all. And nothing Lee doesn't know. We discuss this constantly, but yeah, it's been pretty. We've had to overcome a lot of mental stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to brag on you. You booked a theater for us in Durango.
Nice.
I did.
Congratulations.
Kate booked the theater.
First theater I booked.
Got us an alumni discount too.
Nice.
Can you believe that?
Nice.
Go Skyhawks.
So I think that's. I don't know. I'm gonna get you a cake. That's fucking huge.
Right.
So
Thank you.
we're killing the business part too.
Okay, so what do you guys have coming up? What's next on the horizon for you?
Well, we do have the shows in Durango, but we're also going down to, we're going to go on Thursday to Albuquerque to our friends, actually your friend Sarah Kennedy and Kelly Trapnell. They own Albuquerque's only comedy club, Dry Heat Comedy.
Yeah, it'll be our first New Mexico show.
Yeah. So this will be our fourth state.
Yeah, dude,
right? We're checking them off.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we'll do that, and then we'll pop up to Durango for the weekend. And we have our 2-year anniversary show, August 25th, also
so cool.
at the O. So, and then do you want to talk about the podcast?
Yeah, so Lee and I run a podcast called Dyketopia, the podcast. You guessed it. And it started out with structure, and now it's just mostly our thoughts on gay pop culture.
Okay.
Which is fun.
And I'm loving it, dude. We're having a good. Do you know what the ultimatum is? Well, you'll have to listen to our pod.
Daylight
It's really nuts. It's a dating show that's not good. Like the format's bad.
Okay.
But it was an all queer cast.
Oh wow.
So every lesbian was like, "This is who I am now," and everyone just really held on to it.
Huh.
So, did you see that Tiff and Vanessa were at Town Hall last weekend?
Tiff and Vanessa.
You got to catch up.
It sounds like
From the ultimatum.
right. I was invited a year ago to be on Married at First Sight. I turned it down, but
Why? Why'd you turn it down?
I thought you were an artist.
Right.
What?
Perfect avant-garde
it was so
opportunity.
surreal to me because it was like a producer specifically to my name, R. Allen Brooks. Gave her a cell phone number. I looked up on IMDb. It was like legit. But I was like, what in my work or life makes me a person that you would approach? And it's just not my thing. But now I'm so interested in watching the Denver season. I don't know when it
Is there a
premieres.
Denver season
I mean,
of
there must
Married at
be
First
if they were
Sight?
asking me to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've never seen the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I can guess
name
what
says
it's
it all,
about.
right.
Yeah.
So you literally just get married to someone
Yes.
at first sight, and then
I
you
guess-
have to be a certain type of.
Yeah, I guess
It's-
they match people, and then
Okay.
Good.
but they don't see each other, or meet each other, and they meet at the wedding, and it's a legal wedding, and you have to get you have to get divorced, like really if you don't want to do it. Yeah, it's a whole thing, and it's several seasons in, and I'm sorry for everyone who wanted to see me on there, but
Well, they were recruiting for the new season of Love is Blind in Denver.
Oh wow.
And I am really looking forward to seeing that. And
I hope
man.
I know at least one person that would make me watch a show like that. I don't know
Right.
that usually.
I want to know one person on there so bad. Well, a big dream of mine is to be invited to one of the Love is Blind weddings. To like be where they
Yeah.
you find out if they're going to get married or not. That's like a huge bucket list thing.
Wow.
I
Now that
believe
we've
you
been
can
to 4
attain it.
states.
Right.
You're gonna need to get a completely different group of friends. Let me just tell you that you have really wholesome, good, connected friendships.
Yeah, I have really good
you need to go out more
Right.
and just meet the drunkest girls on earth. Yeah, you got things to do.
All right, so I always end by asking 2 questions. The first is, where can people find your stuff or interact with you online?
So you can find Dyketopia Comedy. It's at Dyketopia Comedy on Instagram. We're starting a TikTok soon.
Nice.
It's gonna be cool. But my new avenues. My Instagram handle is welcome to Chili's spelled with Lees. I don't know, man. And we also have websites. You can Google us.
Okay.
And then my Instagram is Kate Gluck Gluck. It was a nickname in college that I was like, this is going to last forever. And it hasn't. But I think Gluck Gluck is actually easier to spell and pronounce than my last name. So I'm not too worried about it. You're not the first.
So funny.
You won't be the last.
Right.
It's for real. No one gets it.
Oh, well. Okay, so then the final question is, what is inspiring you these days? Like what movie, TV, whatever? Like what are you watching, reading that's inspiring you creatively?
Oh, I just finished The Bear, season 2. Have you watched it?
I was in Philly with my cousin. We watched the first 4 episodes of season 1.
Yeah.
We just started watching. It's fantastic.
It's so good. And I was really cool to see like another medium of people really trying and caring through the food.
Right.
And it's a really powerful show. I'm like totally inspired by it. And then I also, Boy Genius is a band, and I've been listening to their new album a lot.
Love Boy Genius so much.
They're so good.
I don't think we were I was talking about being in a book moment right now. One of the books I bought at the gay bookstore in San Francisco was The Diaries of Lou Sullivan, who is an early trans masc like activist and writer, author, icon generally. And so someone compiled and like edited down his diaries from like a 30-year span. So I only just cracked that, but I was reading about him online last week because a friend had shared some stuff. And then I was in the bookstore and I saw the book that had been referenced and when I saw it online, I was like, immediately need to get this because his story is really cool. Like there was like the lesbian magazine On Our Backs was one of like, I don't know how long it ran, but they had personal ads in there. And one of the ones he ran was around like, hey, send in like a couple bucks and I'll send you like my magazine on like FTM, female to male transitioning or whatever, which like in the 80s was huge. He like wrote and compiled this whole guide for trans people. And that was like what I was looking at. And then I read about his diaries and stuff. And then I saw the book and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Is he still with us?
I don't think he is. I don't think he, I know he's not. Sad ending to his life. But yeah, so I don't know. I've just been feeling like this month I've been like, I always just kind of get into a kick of like, I want to read more queer literature and authors. Yeah. And for that to happen, I was like, oh, perfect. I'm in this gay bookstore with all these amazing authors. So I'm just feeling like really inspired by that right now. Yeah. Very cool. I'll end it too.
All right. I always love that question because I always get to hear about things that I don't know about, things to check out and stuff like that. So that's cool. Hey, I appreciate you guys being guests. It was a lot of fun.
This was so fun. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We had the best time. Thank you.
Likewise. Right on.